While soldiers were clearing the battlefield, they found a surviving little girl among the cold corpses. War is ruthless, yet humanity endures. He was a soldier, and she was a child, abandoned in the fires of war. The cruelest part of war is leaving one so young and innocent homeless. Moved by compassion, the man wanted to take her away, but when he reached out, the girl clung tightly to her mother, who had long since passed. Witnessing this, the man became even more determined to save her. The girl could not understand his language, but she saw the tenderness and sincerity in his eyes. Her long despairing heart was finally melted by his warmth. Without hesitation, she threw herself into his arms. From that moment on, two strangers bound by no blood became the most cherished light in each other's lives. A father-daughter bond that crossed borders and spanned half a lifetime. It has moved countless people to tears. This is no movie, but a true story of the most touching kindness. His comrades were stunned to see Suleiman holding an orphan from the war zone. In these war-torn times, caring for a little girl was incredibly dangerous, but who could have the heart to abandon such a helpless child in the wilderness? So they brought her back to the barracks together. As a war orphan, with nowhere to go, Suleiman kept her by his side at all times, guarding her carefully, and named her Ayla. No matter how cold the night, there is always moonlight to light the way home. Ayla means moonlight. As the days passed, Ayla grew deeply attached to Suleiman. Even on the battlefield, she refused to leave his side for a single moment. While protecting Ayla, Suleiman was eventually gravely wounded and fell unconscious. During his hospitalization, Ayla never left his side and only showed a relieved smile when he finally woke up, even carefully pouring him a cup of warm water. Different nationalities, languages and beliefs, but love knows no borders. When the commander learned Suleiman was injured, saving the girl, he flew into a rage. This is no child's play. This is a brutal battlefield. Having a child along would seriously jeopardize the mission. To keep him focused on combat, the commander decided to hand Ayla over to the logistics staff. But Ayla refused in this strange and terrifying place. Suleiman was the only person she could trust. Thinking it was just a language barrier, and she didn't understand. His comrades tried to distract her so Suleiman could slip away quietly. But the moment they looked away, Ayla jumped down from the truck and secretly stowed away in Suleiman's vehicle. Later, at the commendation ceremony, Ayla suddenly appeared. This time the commander wasn't angry. Instead, he was deeply moved by this father-daughter bond that transcended borders.
As you said, now they're all one big, happy family. We have no doubt she will be healthy and happy with you until her family is found. Suleiman was also granted special permission to care for Ayla.
From then on, whenever Suleiman went out on a mission, Ayla would wait by the gate in the wind and snow, quietly watching for his return. Touched by their bond, the commander even arranged for someone to buy Ayla new clothes. Under Suleiman's devoted care, Ayla felt the warmth of a home for the first time. Ayla's presence also began to quietly heal the other soldiers, helping them briefly forget the horrors of war. Yet the shadow of war had left Ayla unable to speak. This became Suleiman's greatest concern.
Did you go to saving modern buildings? No, I didn't. Alright, that's not it.
Despite the language barrier, they could always understand each other through every smile and expression. Due to the harsh conditions, Ayla's hair became infested with lice, so Suleiman had to cut her hair short. To get her to cooperate, several grown men all pretended to be getting haircuts themselves. Under Suleiman's meticulous care, Ayla slowly began to heal from the pain of losing her family. One day, while Suleiman was training, Ayla suddenly spoke just as the roll call ended. "Baba," she said, her first words finally breaking the silence. Now, Ayla's sudden voice was like a warm ray of sunshine, illuminating the cold barracks. To communicate better with Ayla, Suleiman began teaching her Turkish through daily companionship and lessons. Ayla gradually learned simple words. Everything seemed to be improving, yet only Ayla knew that grief of losing her family had left indelible scars deep within her heart.
I miss them, Papa. Papa.
At this moment, their two hearts were bound tightly together. They were no longer strangers, but a true father and daughter. As days passed, Ayla's Turkish became more proficient, and she began to speak clearly. In front of the soldiers, filled with joy, Suleiman took her to the streets to play, buying her new clothes and letting her ride her favorite kiddie rides, capturing every moment of this hard-won happiness on film. During a meal, Suleiman noticed Ayla's eyes watching the dancers with envy, so he scooped her up, and under the tender gaze of the crowd, they swayed gently to the music. Yet the more peaceful the scene, the closer danger lurked. Their deepening bond began to cause great concern for the commanders. They were destined to be apart. The deeper the bond, the more agonizing the separation would be. At the barracks, Suleiman suddenly heard news that Ayla might still have living relatives. The news came like a bolt from the blue, and he was determined to uncover the truth. He went there in person, never suspecting it was actually a trap. Fortunately, his comrades noticed the danger in time and risked their lives to rescue him. As the days went by, their mission finally came to an end. The second batch of soldiers was arriving for the relief of the unit. Faced with the repatriation order, Suleiman found himself unable to make up his mind. He couldn't bear to imagine how Ayla would survive on her own after he left. Unable to let her go, he ultimately refused to return home and chose to stay. But little did he know that this desperate decision would leave his girlfriend back home, utterly heartbroken. Upon learning this, his commander reprimanded him severely and ordered his immediate repatriation. To put his mind at ease, the commander reached out to the director of a local orphanage, securing a promise that Ayla could live and study there. Still worried, Suleiman personally accompanied her to the orphanage, but when the moment of parting came, Ayla refused to enter the school no matter what. Seeing no other choice, Suleiman had to walk in with her. Watching the children playing innocently, his heavy heart finally found a moment of relief. There was no artillery fire here, no smoke of gunpowder, and no cruel war. It was a sanctuary where Ayla could grow up in peace, and Ayla, completely unaware of what was happening, had no idea she was about to be separated from her beloved father. Watching Ayla's sweet, innocent face, Suleiman stood outside the window, unable to bring himself to leave. He feared this departure might be a final goodbye, but the military order was absolute and impossible to defy. Finally, with eyes rimmed with red and blurred by tears, he turned and walked away in silence. Just a few steps away, Ayla's heart-wrenching cries echoed from behind him.
I suspect he knows that this is how the story must unfold. My heart is heavy. I want only this. The one who is being torn away from us. This can't be happening.
At this moment, Suleiman stopped hesitating. He was determined to take Ayla with him to get her out safely. He made a daring decision. He drilled air holes in the bottom of a suitcase and repeatedly instructed Ayla, no matter what happens, do not make a sound. And so Suleiman carried the suitcase, preparing to board the ship. His comrades noticed something was wrong, and his heart leaped into his throat. Thanks to his persistent pleading, his comrades chose not to inspect the case. But just as he was about to clear the checkpoint, the commanding officer and the orphanage director suddenly caught up. Suleiman's worst fear came true. The suitcase was opened, and Ayla, hidden inside, was exposed to everyone. His superiors pulled every string possible to spare Suleiman from punishment, but when the officer ordered him once more to board the ship for home, his stance remained incredibly resolute.
I will leave when I must, but remember this, that we cannot always protect the children of war. The news of our parting spreads. In the end, all his efforts were in vain.
Facing the cruel reality, he could only say one last goodbye to Ayla. Seeing Ayla's face drenched in tears, Suleiman knelt down gently. He tried his best to keep his voice steady, but his bloodshot eyes could no longer hide the agonizing heartache. To give the child hope to hold on to, he choked out a promise.
Gather your strength, my child. Be brave and carry on. They are children of fate, no matter what happens. They managed to reach out to each other despite everything. She is here to give you a final farewell. With those final words,
Suleiman stood up and turned to leave. At that moment he didn't dare to look back at Ayla. even once, fearing he would lose control of his emotions. Every step felt like treading on the edge of a blade. Ayla, remarkably brave, didn't call out for her father again, but the moment Suleiman's figure vanished completely, she finally broke down in tears. Deep down, Suleiman knew he had no idea when they would ever see each other again. A few days later, Suleiman finally arrived back in his hometown, but his girlfriend was nowhere to be found.
It's good to see your face. You followed the advice given. I've been busy, just leave me. Yes, sir, Andros. I'm asking, I'm listening. Upon learning the news that his girlfriend was already engaged, Suleiman was overcome by an indescribable wave of sorrow.
It turned out she felt he had given all his love to Ayla, and that his attempt to take Ayla with him was a form of betrayal, an act of disloyalty to their relationship. In just a few days, he had not only lost his beloved Ayla, but was now ruthlessly abandoned by his girlfriend as well. At this moment, Suleiman felt a profound sense of loss like never before. This place no longer held anything for him to cherish, so he left a farewell letter for his parents.
Everything here is finished. 5 months later, Suleiman married a woman he did not love, and soon after moved to Istanbul to start a new life with his wife.
After their marriage, his wife noticed he was constantly preoccupied, always leaving early and returning late. To her, it was clear that Suleiman was harboring a deep secret in his heart. In fact, every letter Suleiman sent from the battlefield was read to his parents by her. His wife already knew a little about the story of Suleiman and Ayla. She sensed that all of this must be connected to Ayla. One day, his wife prepared a lavish breakfast, but Suleiman said he was busy and told her to eat without him.
As the two of them sat down together, they spoke frankly about Ayla finally resolving the tension between them.
Suleiman never expected his wife to be so understanding, so, in front of her, Suleiman completely opened his heart and shared the burden he had carried for all these years. It turned out that his habit of leaving early and returning late is actually to inquire about Ayla at the Korean consulate. Then, he began to tell his wife more about the time he spent with Ayla in the military camp, and his wife listened, completely captivated. Suleiman thought his behavior would baffle his wife, but instead she gave him her full support.
Medium prison, singing soon, dancing soon. You will be mad as being a sinner. Mad. From then on, his wife went to the embassy every day to ask for news of Ayla.
But each time there was no word of her. With the war still raging and communication so primitive back then, finding Ayla was truly like looking for a needle in a haystack. To truly find her, one would have to go there in person. It was no longer a time when Suleiman could simply go as he pleased. Thinking of the promise he made to Ayla and his current inability to fulfill it, Suleiman's spirits sank to rock bottom. Fortunately, his wife was always by his side, empathizing with his pain and offering him the greatest encouragement. 47 years passed in a flash, and the young man of that time, Suleiman, was now white-haired. Yet after all these years, he never stopped missing Ayla for a single moment. Watching her husband, immersed in longing day after day, unable to escape the grief of failing to find Ayla, his wife's heart was filled with a whirlwind of emotion. Suleiman's greatest wish in this life was that before he passed away, he could see Ayla just one last time. When he heard that a South Korean rescue team was arriving, the old man stayed glued to the television, stared intently at every female member on the screen, terrified of missing Ayla. Should she be among the rescue team? Send me your letter there. One day, 3 years later, a World Cup match was held between South Korea and Turkey. Suleiman recorded the entire game. Whenever the camera focused on the Koreans, Suleiman would press the pause button to search through the faces one by one. As long as there were Koreans on screen, Suleiman would not give up. This was the only way he could hope to find Ayla. This caused his children great concern, but no matter how much they tried to persuade him, it was in vain. Suleiman still clung to his promise from long ago, and even began to hallucinate.
Father.
Thank you, Daddy. All them.
let them send men to you? She had done later. The story of Suleiman and Ayla caught the attention of the media.
Reporter claimed they would conduct an exclusive follow-up report on Suleiman. Deeply moved by their story, the reporter decided to travel to Korea to investigate and look through the records from those years. Through everyone's collective efforts, they finally found 6 of Ayla's former schoolmates. From them, they learned that Ayla had long ago changed her name to Kim Jong-ah. The schoolmates still remembered how shy Ayla was when she first started school. She kept saying that her father would eventually come back for her. Decades passed, and news of Ayla finally surfaced. A faint smile finally appeared on Suleiman's face, but the reporter's next words dragged him back from heaven to hell. The reporter said it was highly likely that Ayla had already passed away. Upon hearing this, Suleiman was instantly overwhelmed by profound grief. Fearing her father couldn't bear the weight of such a cruel truth, his daughter grabbed the reporter's hand as they were leaving, urging them to stop all further investigations into Ayla. But unexpectedly, Suleiman overheard the entire conversation.
Listen, please. You are only saying this because... No, please. Keep asking questions to them. Here's Suleiman Baba. They haven't reached him yet. Just a little more effort. They are so close to finding her. Everything will be the same in the end. At this very moment, it has been a long journey. We must work together. Seeing the determination in her father's eyes, the daughter finally relented.
Fortunately, their persistence paid off through the reporter's tireless efforts. Ayla's whereabouts were finally discovered. Concerned about Suleiman's frail health, the reporter didn't tell him right away. Instead, she traveled to South Korea alone and visited Ayla's home. The moment Ayla saw the old photograph, she broke down completely. Tears fell like a broken string of pearls streaming down her face uncontrollably.
Oh my God! You have brought such light into my life. Papa, you really were such a wonderful father.
I just wanted to talk to you. Well, is he still not back yet?
Meanwhile, unaware of what was happening, Suleiman continued to visit the church every day, praying devoutly and hoping his daughter would appear once more. When he finally learned that Ayla was still alive, he immediately set off for South Korea, accompanied by his wife. Upon arriving in Korea, he tried his best to restrain his emotions, but the yearning in his eyes was impossible to hide. With the help of journalists, Suleiman and his wife arrived at the meeting place early. The moment a figure appeared, the old man recognized her instantly. It was his daughter, Ayla. Time had left its marks on her face, but in Suleiman's heart, the woman before him, Kim Yoon-ja, was still the 5-year-old little Ayla, and Kim Yoon-ja also knew at once that the white-haired man before her was her father. The two rushed toward one another.
Oh, Papa. As the doctor reached out to you earlier today, her eyes of pride.
After more than 50 years of separation and searching, this journey finally reached its heartfelt conclusion. While tears countless families apart, yet it brought two unrelated souls together in an inseparable bond. Brief companionship became a lifetime of longing. Decades of separation, half a lifetime of waiting. They proved that the deepest bond is not defined by blood, but by the devotion to hold someone in your heart and cherish them with your life. The most moving thing in this world is not the smoke of war or tales of heroism, but that ray of light named Ayla amidst the conflict, illuminating the most tender side of humanity.